Hey baseball fans, welcome as always to Wood with Handles, a baseball podcast for fans by fans. This is episode 11 for the week of June 24th. I'm Ryan.
I'm Josh, and before we get started this week, big congratulations to the Miami Heat for winning the NBA championship. And go to our website at woodwithhandles.com/contest, enter there to win free tickets to a baseball game of your choice. Getting started this week, probably the biggest news of the week outside of some hot streaks by other teams was the Oakland Athletics and the Oakland Coliseum, more so, flooding, lots of raw sewage in both locker rooms. In the end, the Mariners and the Athletics had to move up to the Raiders clubhouse. They had to share a clubhouse. Basically, there's been a lot of rumors for a long time that they were going to move to San Jose, and this might expedite that move.
Yeah, first of all, yummy on the raw sewage. I mean, gross. How bad can it really get? I guess the locker rooms flooded, both the Oakland A's locker room and the visitor locker room, causing both teams to move. But it's really bad, and I guess it's not the first time it's happened. It's been one of those things that have happened in the past, but they're actually now just shining a light on the issues from the Coliseum.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely what I heard, is that this is actually not a rare thing, and even though it's gotten a lot of press this week, this is something that kind of has been going on for a while. I definitely think something needs to change. I don't think we're going to see a move to San Jose because of the Giants. The Giants have quite the market share in that area, and
isn't that really the main issue? I mean, them moving from San Jose, which is closer to San Francisco, and would be essentially taking San Francisco's market to have both teams right next to each other.
Yeah, they would be moving from Oakland to San Jose, and it basically would take too much away from the Giants. So the Giants, if the Giants okay it, then they're good to go. It's really up to the Giants. I mean, baseball has a say in it too, but from what I understand, the Giants really hold their fate in their hands.
We were talking a little bit off air. I guess there's a lot of other teams that are in markets for baseball teams, but would it really be good for Oakland to move the A's franchise somewhere else and get rid of the actual Oakland A's brand and Oakland A's name? I think it kind of would be terrible for them to move, because the Oakland A's are the A's. I mean, they've got a lot of history in the MLB, and I mean, they're playing really well now, and they built a really good team the last few years, and I don't think it would be a wise move to move anywhere out of California.
Yeah, I mean, the A's definitely have a great history, and I mean, I think there's a lot of options. I think option number one would be to move to San Jose, which I think is what not only the team wants, but a lot of baseball fans want. I mean, it's not a big move, but it's a new city that has money to support them, and that works. The second option would be for them just to get a new stadium in Oakland.
Yeah, I was going to say, is it a pretty big issue for them to build a new stadium? I mean, wouldn't that just be the more wise decision instead of moving the team out?
Well, that's the easy decision, but the issue
seems like the logical one.
Yeah, it is, but it's not that simple. It's there's too much that goes into building a stadium, and a lot of times it requires public funding, and to be frank, until recently, Oakland didn't really give a shit about the Athletics. So, I mean, I don't think that city's really ready to start forking over money for a new stadium.
Yeah, it's kind of a very fair weather fan base, and I know a lot of A's fans are probably going to get pissed if they listen to this, but whatever, because it's the truth of the matter. It's a very fair weather fan base. I mean, when they're really good, fans love them. When they're bad, they don't care.
Absolutely.
But I guess, maybe maybe it impacts a little bit more in the A's because Oakland plays there too. The Oakland Raiders. So I guess that would affect them a little bit more. But the San Francisco Giants are getting a new stadium coming soon. So, I mean, maybe that frees up the old Candlestick Park or whatnot. But I guess for me, building a new stadium in Oakland would make all the sense and keeping the team there. But logistically, it just might not be a good move or easy to do.
Yeah, and I mean, and you mentioned moving in general. I mean, while the A's do have a big history, and they've been in Oakland since 1968, the Athletics have been a franchise since 1901, and I mean, they've played Philadelphia and Kansas City. I mean, this is a team that has been able to keep their name and their history while moving essentially all over the country. So, I mean, there's definitely options. We were talking before we were recording about Montreal wants a team again, which a lot of people think is a bad idea, but they seem to have the money, and I mean, that's what matters in the end. I know Nashville wants a team. Memphis wants a team. So there's a lot of markets that still want teams, and I mean there's other cities in California that want teams, and other cities in Texas, like the big states that already have multiple teams. Like there's cities in these states that want teams. So I mean I think it's a good option, but from what I've read and heard in interviews, they're not really interested in moving outside of the Bay Area.
Yeah, I think it just creates a huge problem for Oakland, because if they're going to move, it's going to take a long time, and it's going to be quite a process unless they actually just decide to move to San Jose. But that would have to get approved by MLB, the Giants, a lot of things going into it, a lot of legality, a lot of legal issues to it. But Oakland's a contender right now, and if they make it to the playoffs and they start selling a lot of tickets, this could be a huge issue for the Oakland A's organization. I mean, if that stadium's just not hacking it and they make it to a World Series where essentially your stadium is on display for millions of people to watch and thousands of people to visit during that series, it could be a huge issue.
Yeah, I mean,
it really would. And both the teams playing in the World Series, you don't want to have to make outside accommodations, because I mean, when you make the World Series, the last two teams left, that's the best of the best right there, and you shouldn't have to be splitting a locker room, especially not in a World Series, which everything is on the line.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, they're playing good, which is great. And I don't think it's going to slow down. I think they have a good chance of, I mean, Texas obviously is a big team in that division, but I think they have a chance to kind of be there right towards the top, or wild cards, whatever it may be. So they probably will make the playoffs. And I mean, obviously they're a good team, and they've had a few injuries lately, but overall they're doing pretty good. So, I mean, that's another thing to talk about, is how impressive they've been playing.
Yeah. I guess a lot of the A's players are continually frustrated about this too. I mean, there's a lot of tweets, from players saying, hey, you have to get the word out. We need a new stadium. And when your players aren't happy with your stadium, the accommodations, it's going to detract a lot of people from even coming to Oakland in future years if they continue to just kind of push it away and not do anything about it. Right now, we'd like to welcome in our guest, Jeff Kirshman, and the associate reporter for MLB.com. Thanks for coming on with us today, Jeff.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Before we get started, Jeff, just introduce yourself. Tell us exactly kind of what you do. Obviously, we're having you come on and talk about the athletics, but is that kind of where you focus on?
Yeah, definitely. I'm in Oakland for the summer. I'm an associate reporter for MLB.com covering the A's, so that's definitely my forte in regard to baseball. Yeah,
this season, actually really this past week, has been a lot of A's news. Obviously, they had the flooding, which we just talked about at the Coliseum. Lots of more increased talks about moving to San Jose, or at least getting a new stadium or something changing. Is there? I doubt that you can, but is there anything that you can tell us about that situation?
Yeah, other than how the Mariners weren't too excited about going to the Raiders locker room to shower after the game, not too much that I can say. Just there's a lot up in the air, so I don't feel all that comfortable talking about specifics about it.
That's understandable. Obviously, the A's have been, within the past few seasons, really, it hasn't just been this season, they've been one of the more impressive teams in baseball, and this situation obviously doesn't help them a lot, but it doesn't seem to be hurting them. From what I've heard, this isn't like the first time this has ever happened. This happens kind of often. So this is a team that's doing good, and they're playing well. Obviously, the whole Moneyball thing, they've had a lot of increased publicity. And how's it affecting just the team overall, and how's the city responding to this great team and having a kind of a winning franchise for the first time in a while?
Yeah, after winning a division title last year, they're on pace, at least right now. They're still in first to repeat and make the playoffs again. The A's, they don't always fill up the stadium, but those who do show up they're very passionate. The Giants get a lot of the talk around here, but it seems like a lot of times that's more of a bandwagon type of thing, whereas the A's seem to really appreciate their team.
Yeah, we've all seen it where the last couple of years where the A's have been they've been up and coming, and until last year when they kind of broke out and got into the playoffs and beat Texas to kind of make their name for themselves, and they got off to kind of a sluggish start this year, and they picked it up since. I guess what's the pulse of the team, and how do they feel moving forward from here on?
They feel confident, especially the way that their starting pitchers are going. They got an old guy and a 40-year-old Bartolo Colon who has a chance at starting the All-Star game if he keeps it up, and if the people making those decisions decide to give it to him. There's a lot of competition, obviously, but there's also a lot of young guys like Dan Straley, Jared Parker, AJ Griffin. Even though he isn't earning the win stat, he's playing really well, as are a lot. And then you got guys like Grant Balfour. He's on a save streak of his own, and timely hitting in defense. That seems to be the Oakland A's way of winning games recently.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think any team or any fan in baseball in general would deny the success of the Athletics. I mean, it's been impressive, and I mean, they're winning without obviously the Bartolo Colon, and they do have some other names on the team. They're doing it not the Yankees way. They're not buying their championships, and they're not doing it that way. And it's nice to see just pure talent winning baseball games.
Yeah, there is a lack of star power, but as you said, they do find ways of winning, and it is just an Oakland A's way of doing baseball, it seems. Yeah, I mean, there's guys like Cespedes, there's guys like Coco Crisp, Colon, but there's also a lot of unnamed guys that don't get as much recognition, and Josh Reddick, who wins a Gold Glove.
Yeah.
But I mean, these guys aren't doing it with 500-foot home runs all the time, or you might not always see them on SportsCenter, but that doesn't mean that they don't lack value in the major leagues.
Yeah, and you were talking a little bit about Cespedes. What's kind of the pulse on him? I mean, there was a lot of hype regarding him coming out, and he was probably one of the better players to keep your eye on from last season. And I know he's had kind of injury problems here and there, but is the future bright for Cespedes?
As you said, there's injury problems. So if he's healthy, he's just as lethal of a bat when it comes to hitting home runs. He had today is Saturday. On Friday, he had his second 2-home run game of the year. He had his third two-run home run game of his career, and they've all come this month. That was in his first game returning to left field after he was serving as the team's DH as he tried to heal a left hamstring that had been bothering him. So, whenever he takes a tumble in the outfield or there's any questionable play, there's kind of a gasp, I think, from the collective organization, just because they know how important he is. They know he's an impact player, and that if the A's are going to have success, that it will probably rely on Cespedes playing a large part in that.
Absolutely. Like I said, I mean, overall, we're very happy with how they play. I mean, it's great to see. Obviously, we're both fans of teams on the East Coast, and we're from the East Coast, but as just fans of baseball in general, which we are, it's a great story. It's great to see, and I mean, they're fun to watch, even though they're giving our two teams, Ryan's a Tigers fan, I'm a White Sox fan, they give other teams hell. I mean, it's still a great time to watch, and I mean, they're just overall a fun team to watch play baseball, and they play the game well.
Yeah, I'd agree, especially when you got as many late game heroics as the team seems to have. You got a rookie first baseman, Nate Fryman, hitting game winners off of Mariano Rivera. It's fun to watch.
Absolutely, which was really crazy when you think about it. But yeah, that's all we're really going to have for you this week. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for taking a few minutes to talk with us, and we understand that you can't talk much about the moving situation, whether there is one or not. But yeah, thanks for taking time out of your day.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks for reaching out again.
Thanks, Jeff, for coming on the show. Now keeping it in California, the Padres.
California love.
Yeah, the Padres are the impressive team right now. They have the second best record in baseball in the past 30 days, only behind the Cardinals, who were also swept by the Astros, who we will talk about in a minute. But the Padres are playing impressive baseball. They're not just winning games; they're winning games against good teams. They're like legitimately winning games, not by the other team committing more errors. They're just playing better baseball than other teams, which is something that doesn't get associated with the Padres name, being honest, which, again, like we said before, if anybody's Padres fans who listens to this, they probably hate our guts right now. But, I mean, the Padres suck, and as of the past 30 days, that is
they haven't given you a reason to believe. I mean, really. I mean, there have been streaks here and there where it's been, you see the flashes of brilliance and the things about the Padres where it's, okay, you know, they're putting it together, they've got a future, things like that. But up until now, there hasn't been a lot that has got you excited about the Padres.
No, not at all. It's been bad. I mean, they don't have any hot players really, and other than Carlos Quentin fighting, they haven't really been in the news lately, and it's weird to hear. Like when and then you go back,
I know, right?
Yeah, you go back and you look at their schedule and it's not even just the past 30 days. I mean, it's going beyond that. But I mean, if you're ranking the past month compared to every other team in baseball, I mean, like I said, they have the second best record in all of baseball.
Yeah, they're 12 of 17 and 9 for the last 10. So they're definitely, whatever they're doing it right. Yeah. And it's exciting because it's a new name, it's a new face, it's a new organization, something to keep your eye on. Whether or not it continues, who knows? I'm not going to read too much into it, but being hot for a month is not something you take lightly.
No, and I mean, this is a team that went from dead last. I mean, when we're talking dead last, worlds behind everybody else to, I believe they're in third or second place right now. And I mean, that's a jump like that is impressive. There's nothing that to discount about how impressive jumping in the rankings like that is. Keeping it in kind of the impressive streak, the Houston Astros have been also amazing over the past 30 days. Not quite Padres level amazing, but winning good series. I believe they swept the Cardinals. I believe they swept or won 2 of 3 from the Diamondbacks. I know they swept the Angels. They've just been overly impressive in the past month. And while they're still really far back and they got a lot of work to do,
there's been signs of life, signs of positivity.
Yeah,
the wins against the Cardinals and the Diamondbacks. I mean, the Cardinals are the best team in baseball by far right now, and the Diamondbacks have, I guess, for what it's worth, been the best team in that division. I don't know if that's saying a lot for that division, but I mean, you can't. I'm still not on this bandwagon, I guess. If I like Bo Porter, I like his direction. He's gritty, he's gutsy, he does a lot with the team. He's not afraid to make moves, and I think that's impacted the team a lot. And maybe it's just taken them a little bit to find their stride. I guess it's still going to be a long uphill battle for them, but I guess I need to see more before I can really start believing in this team.
Yeah, well, they're not quite the Padres. I think this is a positive sign. Are they going to make the playoffs this year? No. I mean, they're going to cause some issues for some people, and they already have. I mean, I know other than the Tigers, almost every big name team, the big talent teams, have struggled against the Astros this year. Even when the Astros weren't, even longer than 30 games ago when they were about to break records for the worst team ever playing to play, I mean, they were still giving the quote-unquote best teams a run for their money.
Yeah, I think Houston's going to be one of those spoiler teams where you don't want to see them down the stretch. Kind of a lot like Kansas City or San Diego has been the last few years, where those teams that are playing games that matter in the last month and a half, 2 months of the season, Houston's not one of those teams you want to see on their schedule because essentially they're playing to ruin your season.
Yeah, because I mean, unlike the Padres, the Houstons do not stand a chance. Houston does not stand a chance. I mean, even in that division, which has been underperforming beyond anybody's expectations, I mean, they're not going to beat out the Angels. They're not going to beat out the Mariners even. I mean, they're definitely not going to beat out Texas, Oakland. No, I mean, no. They really don't stand a chance in that division.
I mean, yeah, playing in that division, there's no way they're coming back from it. Even if they were to go on another hot streak or two like this, they're playing in probably one of the better divisions in the AL.
Yeah.
So it's going to be hard for them to come back either way. But seeing the positive signs, seeing the show of life, seeing them play well, it's encouraging, and I think it builds an atmosphere of positivity within the clubhouse and in the city to where you can get excited for a minute, and that's good because they need all the help they can get. Absolutely. And playing well right now is also going to help them at the trade deadline, bring players in, because whether or not they're not selling, they're going to be buyers for the next few years.
They have tons of money, and that was a big issue before the season even started, was that they cleared house and they cleared up all this cap space and then didn't spend any money. Right now, the player in the Houston organization who is getting paid the most money was
their first round draft pick who hasn't played a game in the organization.
Yeah, this year's first round draft pick. I mean, they have so much money, and I mean, Houston's going to be picking up some even if it's not even names, some talent this year. They're going to be, and I think it's going to end up screwing them because they have so much money that they're going to end up overpaying for people, But when you're trying to build your organization, that's the kind of thing you're going to do. You're going to overpay for the guys you want to get. And yeah, it might hurt them in the long run, but
I don't know. I think when you're trying to build a franchise, trying to build an organization, you're willing to take a risk here or there, and whether it means sacrificing a ton of money, well, not a ton of money, but money on players that you have essentially sitting on a bank, it's not going to be a bad thing because it's going to take a long time for the Astros to get there. So shelling out cash right now is probably not a bad thing for them.
Absolutely.
I mean, how do you get players to come to a team? Good players. You just throw money at them.
Yeah, obviously you have money and you try to entice them with how great your organization is and all that bullshit. But I think a lot of it has to do with money. I mean, in certain situations, you have organizations like the Giants. The Giants are known throughout baseball as like the team that like jokes around. Like they're a very laid back organization. You're kind of allowed to do what you want, obviously, with the Brian Wilsons of the world and everyone else. I mean, it's a much more of a, from what I've heard, circus.
Yeah, circus to say the least.
And it works for them, and that's fine. And some people want that, and some people can't handle that. They want focus, and they want to be worked hard, and that's not the kind of organization the Giants are. So, I mean, some stuff like that does go into it. I don't think that Houston has a identity even at this point to draw anybody in at that rate.
Nope.
But, I mean, they have money.
Yeah.
And arguably they had the first round pick this year. They're probably going to have the first pick next year because even though they're doing better, they're not going to get to the point. I mean, they'll probably do better than the White Sox, but they're going to be top few teams in that draft. So they're going to get another high draft pick again. And I mean, we've talked about in the past with the MLB draft and just the way that baseball works compared to other sports and how long it takes to get into the league. But lately that has not been the case. You're seeing a lot of 2012 draft picks already being brought up. And so a lot of these people have a potential to impact this team in the very near future.
Yeah, and if nothing else, it's exciting for a minute.
Yeah, absolutely. Another series that was exciting and probably got overshadowed by the NBA championship and the NHL Stanley Cup. The Dodgers and the Yankees played for the first time since 1981 this week.
Yeah, this is one of those historic series that I think a lot of fans have been waiting for a long time.
It's weird to me that they don't play every year.
You know, that's the MLB for you. Their scheduling process is crazy at best. So I mean,
but this seems like
you should see this more often because it's one of the more historic rivalries.
Yeah. I mean,
this is in any sport.
This is Lakers Celtics.
Yeah, exactly.
This is Yankees Red Sox. I mean, this is a massive rivalry, and they ended up splitting the series. I know Puig had a good game both times, but
man Bear Puig.
Yeah, it's weird to me that they're not playing at a more consistent rate together.
Yeah, I mean, I guess how the teams actually play and who won the games is kind of not important.
Yeah,
just as far as the actual rivalry, and it is something that I think MLB needs to kind of focus on a little bit more in the future. And I think it's not just with the Yankees Dodgers; it's with other rivalries because a lot of fans like to see that stuff. And like we said, the Dodgers Yankees is one of the more historic rivalries, and I think it's something that needs to be recognized. It's history. People love it, especially the old history buffs, the purists of the game, things like that. This is the kind of stuff that brings people back and keeps people around.
Yeah. The Yankees lost one of those games, but they haven't really been playing that well lately. They started out the season. We've talked so much about how much even though none of us are Yankees fans on this show,
how much we'd appreciate them.
Yeah, we really appreciate the way they've played, and like they've been doing good, and it was a shocker, but that has died off. And I mean,
the luster's worn off, to say the least.
Yeah, and I don't know what to blame it on. I mean, it could be injuries. Obviously, a lot of their injuries were gone, but I mean,
I think you're right about that. The injuries they're starting to mount up, and you can only expect bad players to play well for a period of time, and they're not. It's not one of those things where they can prolong it, and they're going to need to start to get people healthy, and they're getting there.
I was going to say, just when they started, I mean, Youkilis was back, Teixeira was back, Granderson was back, and Jeter at one point in time we thought was coming back, and I mean, shit hit the fan again. Youkilis is getting surgery on a herniated disc. It's going to take 10 to 12 weeks, I believe the quote was. Teixeira is back on the DL, only 15-day at this point, but I mean, clearly his wrist is not okay. Granderson should be coming back.
Granderson just got the pins removed from his arm or his wrist. And they're not letting him do anything other than just kind of flex it and kind of holding the bat. And then the thing with Jeter where he's resuming baseball activities, you can take that for what it's worth. Who knows when he's going to come back, because that's a long rehab stint for him. And even when he comes back, there's going to be a good amount of rust that's going to be there.
Yeah, and it's like they need it. They're at the point now where they need A-Rod. And God only knows when his broken hips are going to be okay to play baseball again. I mean, they are just in shambles, and like you said, I mean, they started out really good, and that the replacement players, as I want to call them, they're not replacement players. They're players, I should say. The
role players can only play so long for so well. You can't expect them to sustain it. And I think, bravo to the Yankees for doing what they've done so long. But I think that counting on Cano and CeCe and those being the only two there, it can only get you so far, and I think that's what you're starting to see with the Yankees.
Yeah. Speaking of Jeter resuming baseball activity, I believe you said Bryce Harper is starting to rehab. How's your boy doing?
Just starting rehab. If I guess you can say starting loosely.
I know he got the cast off his leg.
Yeah, they cleared him to, I guess, kind of slowly work back into starting rehab. I still don't think he's going to be back until the All-Star break or after the All-Star break. But good signs for Washington, who could really use him right now. They've been playing better recently, but getting Harper back is going to give him just another a boost of energy and kind of a kick in the ass for them, hopefully, because they played well under expectations.
Yeah. I mean, I think they need it. I don't know that he's going to be the savior. I think they're just, as you said, playing under expectations. I think he will help. He will help them win a few games here and there, but I mean, he's not carrying this team on their back.
No, I don't think they're making the playoffs like I once thought.
We all had them win the World Series.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, and hopefully they're not a one and done, one hit wonder type team. But Bryce Harper is kind of, I guess I would say, the heart of the team.
Yeah, I mean,
you have Strasburg, you have Gonzalez there, and then you have Zimmerman. But Harper's the guy, and he's their franchise.
Yeah, and I mean, hopefully it'll work out for him. Speaking of franchise players, Jose Reyes is not only rehabbing, but to what I know, he's close to coming back, like in the next week, maybe 2 weeks. We'll see Jose Reyes back in a Blue Jays uniform, which is going to be huge.
Yeah, Jose Reyes. Yep.
This is a team that is been playing. I mean, we talked about the Padres and the Astros playing phenomenal. This is a team that probably one of the hardest teams to beat right now. R.A. Dickey's finally kind of stepped his game up. Josh Johnson's been playing phenomenal. I mean, they have great pitching, and they always had a great bullpen. Even when they were at their shittiest, they had a great bullpen. Now, if they can get Jose Reyes back and get some run production, I mean, I don't want to say it. It's exaggerating a little much, but they're unstoppable.
Unstoppable might be saying a little bit too much, but Jose Reyes, out of all the injuries and everything going on, I think he's the guy. He's the main one that you want to focus on, because before he got hurt, he was the key to their lineup. Even though he was batting leadoff, I think he was the guy that they really counted on to get on base. And when your leadoff gets on base, it kind of sets a tone for everybody behind him. And I think once he gets back, it's going to give that team an even bigger lift. And like you said, they've been probably the hottest team in the last month. Granted, it hasn't really gotten them anywhere because
they were just too far back.
Yeah, they're playing in an outstanding division with 3 really heavy hitters.
Yeah,
but I think that he's the big one, and he's going to be the guy. Plain and simply for the Blue Jays. And in the in the AL East, pitching is always key for them. But to have Reyes back as the team leader and the energy guy and the guy that sets the tone for the lineup, he's probably the guy that you need to keep your eye on.
Yeah, and I mean, keeping it in the AL East, David Price has started his pitching rehab assignment. I hear rumors of he will be starting, I believe, early this coming week. Probably by the time this podcast
he's real close.
And I mean, that'll help, but I think the Rays are kind of in shambles right now.
Yeah, I think you're kind of right about the Rays. They really are in shambles, and I mean, it's sad seeing where they've come from, because they've just been playing so well over the last few years, but they're a team with no identity right now. They're trying to find their way. A lot of things, a lot of injuries, and they haven't been playing well at all. So getting Price back, as little as it may be, he hasn't been all that outstanding this year, but hopefully he can come back and find whatever form he had in the past.
Yeah. Another team that, kind of our last little injury update, another team that has really been struggling and needs to get this guy back, oddly enough, even though he's a bench player. Evan Gattis of the Atlanta Braves has been injured, and doesn't look like we're going to see him very, very soon.
Yeah, granted, Gattis wasn't one of those guys that was playing every day, but he was a name for a while because it was a good story. He was the janitor, came out, hit all these home runs, and now it's just, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. I mean, I think they need him back. I think he is an impact player, even though he plays the bench. I mean, a lot of rumors that they're going to end up trading I couldn't tell you their catcher's name off the top of my head, but they're going to trade their catcher, and Gattis will be their catcher next year, or possibly even this season. I love the story. I'm a big fan, and it's just a bummer to see someone who clearly loves playing the game as much as he does, get injured and basically can't play the game now.
I mean, Gattis is kind of their energy guy. When they need to get something started, they can always look to him to kind of come out and, I guess, light a flame under the team's ass. But I think the underlying story, and I don't mean to get a little off topic here for Atlanta, is for being a first place team, they've got a lot of issues. They don't hit the ball well when they don't hit home runs. Kind of like your White Sox. I mean, when they're not hitting home runs, they're not hitting the ball well. It's just they've been, I think, only a game or two over 500 since they had that hot start.
Yeah.
And they built up such a lead that they've been able to live off of it. But they've got a lot of issues as a team, whether or not they keep that lead, and I think they will. Just like we said, because they built such a reservoir of games up that they were already in first, and it was kind of insurmountable from the start. But they've got a lot of issues for a first-place team, a lot of issues.
Yeah. Someone else we want to talk about, we just talked about David Price and his kind of rehab and getting back. Another Rays news this week was their call-up of their top prospect, Will Myers. They got him from the trade with Kansas City before the season started, and he was last year's MILB Player of the Year. MVP. He's a lot of talent. I got to see him down in Durham, the Rays minor league affiliate, a couple months back, and he's clearly far and away the most talented player on the field. I mean, was better than everybody else that was out there. I mean, it was clear that he was a professional level player playing in the minors, and he finally got the call up. And while he hasn't had we're not talking Mike Trout, Manny Machado, Bryce Harper style person. I mean, he had a successful game. I believe he went 3 for 4 in his first game, and he's played every day since. But I don't know that this is going to be a necessarily big boost for the Rays, but it's good press for him, and the guy deserved to play somewhere at some point in time. I'm not sure of his name, but Wheeler for the Mets, he just got called up, and he started for the Mets and had a phenomenal first game. I mean,
yeah, he started in the second game of that day-night doubleheader that the Mets had with Atlanta, that they actually swept Atlanta. But I think for Wheeler, kind of like every other pitcher that we've kind of talked about the debut here, you need to see a little bit more. But for a good first start's always encouraging, and when you get a quality start out of a first-time guy, that's positive. It's something to build forward with.
Yeah, by the time this podcast is out, he'll probably have a second start, I would assume, or I believe he might even be starting today, the day that we're recording this. So we won't know until later, but clearly he has some talent, and I think it's big for the Mets, because right now you got Matt Harvey coming up for I believe he needs to be re-signed next year, and
they'll re-sign him.
Well,
I hope.
Yeah,
you need to re-sign him.
You would like to see that, but are they going to have the money?
B, does he want to stay?
Does he want to be a Met? And I mean, I think when you start building a team, now they have a 1-2 punch.
Yeah, exactly. And that's super important for any rotation.
Yeah, I mean, they have
most rotations barely have one guy.
Yeah,
so
they have two solid guys at the top of that rotation. Yeah. I mean, if they can just get some fucking offense now, they might be a decent team.
Yeah, having two guys to rely on, go back to back, especially if they were to make the playoffs and you go with a 3-man rotation, then you have two guys that are pretty good and untouchable. I mean, that's all you can hope to do.
Yeah.
But like I said, you want to see more from Wheeler before you kind of make a judgment on him, because, like I said, it was against the Braves, and the Braves have been having a lot of hitting issues lately. So you can't take away from the fact that he got a hell of a start and a quality start out of it. Yeah. And then the Myers kid, whether it affects the Rays lineup or not, it's, like I said, it's something to be excited about.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll sell a few tickets. I mean, it's someone, he was a big deal in the Royals organization. I mean, he never played for the Royals, but as a minor league player for the Royals. And the Royals have a huge history of having a great minor league system, and they brought him over for the Rays, and the Rays also have a pretty decent minor league system, and they brought him over, and he slumped at the beginning of this year, but I seen him when he was quote unquote slumping, and I mean, he was still better than every player on that field, and they were playing the Mud Hens, which is the Tigers affiliate, who also have a halfway decent minor league system, and I mean, he was, I mean, just, you didn't even have to know that was Will Myers. It would have been like, there's that guy who's worlds better than everybody else that's out here. It would have been like Michael Jordan going to play, or I should say LeBron James against like a high school kid.
Yeah, it was it's kind of the thing where you hope that this is the kid that the Rays are passing the torch to. It was, Longoria for a long time with the Rays, and now hopefully they have somebody else that they can market and build on and put I don't know if Longoria can ever be that guy again. Yeah, he's still going to be an impact for the Rays, but I don't know if he can be that franchise player that he once was.
Yeah. And
so hopefully Myers kind of steps up and fills those shoes for the Rays.
Yeah. Roy Oswalt down in Colorado, he kind of an odd story here. I know we're jumping around, but this to me is more interesting than anything. He started the other day for the Rockies. He had a decent outing. He gave up 4 runs, but he had 11 strikeouts, and it was by no means an all-star performance, but it was a good enough performance for a number 4, number 5 guy, and that's all the Rockies are looking for. They're not looking for a new ace or anything like that. They're satisfied with where their pitching is, and they should be. But to me, it's more interesting that I thought his career was over.
Yeah, a lot of people thought he was finished, not just you.
Yeah,
and like you said, 4 earned runs, but I think the bigger issue is he had 11 strikeouts, and you have to be impressed with that. Because, I mean, essentially he was done. He was finished. Nobody wanted him.
Nobody.
The Rockies gave him a shot, and from everything that I've read, they were encouraged by it. And I think you can't fault him for giving up 4 runs because he's Roy Oswalt. He's a little older now. Well, I'm not going to say a little older, a lot older. But he hasn't pitched. I mean, he's made spot starts here and there for, I think it was the Braves and maybe the Phillies, I want to say, in Houston.
Well, he used to play for the Phillies, but I think it was Houston.
He was with Houston before that for all that time. But, I mean, it was a spot start here and there. And I think him coming back, he's not going to be a 1, 2, or 3. No. And maybe not even a 4, but you can have him as a 5th guy or maybe even a guy that can give you a couple innings out of the bullpen down the stretch.
And that's all they need. And I believe they got him for a really nice contract. They basically owe him nothing. They gave him I don't want to say it because we're about to talk about it, but they gave him the Jose Valverde contract where we don't really owe you anything.
Nope.
Like, here's a few dollars, come do this, and if you do really good, we'll give you some money, but we don't really owe you anything, which is fine. I like that a lot of teams are doing this. I think there's certain players who do deserve the big contracts, but outside of that, I'm not a fan of the big contract, and I like that. Even some bigger name players are starting to realize that, sure, Oswalt's career is done, but he also has, I mean, he's Roy Oswalt. I mean,
he was one of those guys. He was probably one of the most, I guess, highly touted prospects for a while, and when he made it, he came in with a huge splash, and he was a hell of a pitcher for the Astros for a long, long time, and then a couple injuries here and there, and there it was. You got the Ken Griffey. Really, it was the thing that happened in Ken Griffey Jr., where the injuries mounted, and people just didn't want to take a chance on him anymore, and kind of left him out. So
awesome for him. Great story.
Yeah, I mean, essentially the Rockies got a win-win with this because they didn't invest a lot of money. And if he doesn't work out, then you don't have anything wrapped up to him. But if he works out, you can either extend him or use him for a trade.
Yeah, and I mean, you have a new number 5 guy. He has experience, so if you make the playoffs, which there's a good chance the Rockies could make the playoffs if they keep it up, you have someone who's been there, who's done that, who has that experience, and I mean, and that means a lot. Even if you're not playing, I mean, you hear about basketball teams, specifically basketball teams, who will sign these contracts for these old players with no intention of these guys ever playing. just sitting on the bench to be that kind of fatherly, grandfather, historic figure. Well, I've been here before, and I mean, that'll help. I mean, if you can have him in your bullpen even out there being able to talk to these guys and explain to them how it's going to be. I mean, because this is an organization that does not have a lot of playoff experience.
Yeah, and I think if you're the least bit familiar with the Rockies problem the last few seasons hasn't been hitting. They hit the ball well. They always have. And I mean, when you play in Colorado, balls are going to fly out of that stadium left and right. It's been the pitching. Yep. And now that you have a couple solid starters going, and I mean, he's another guy. Like you said, he's a solid arm out there, and he just adds to what you're building on right now.
Speaking of not a solid arm and not adding to anything, Jose Valverde was just taken back down to AAA.
About time.
I imagine a lot of Tigers fans are very happy about this. I know there's there's probably a few Tigers fans who think he wasn't given a fair shot, because there are closers who are still have a job who have blown way more games than Jose Valverde has. But this is a team that's really legitimately trying to contend. I think if Jose Valverde blew every fucking game every night, they would still win the AL Central. The AL Central is fucking terrible. So, I mean, they're going to get out no matter what. But coming playoff time, obviously, this is what screwed them last time in the playoffs. They need to get this shit figured out.
Yeah, we had this discussion last week, and I thought outside of Valverde probably getting hurt for the season that he was going to stay there. So, which surprises me that they let him go.
Yep.
And basically he got DFA'd, so that means as long as he clears waivers, he has the option to either just leave outright or go and pitch for AAA Toledo, which is the Tigers' farm system. And he's going to clear waivers because nobody's going to pick him up. Nobody's going to want to take a chance on him. But I think this was what it didn't solve a problem for the Tigers. Why it may have put a Band-Aid on it. I think that getting rid of Valverde probably it's going to help, because you can see it on the face of Leland. He paces around. He's nervous. I'm sure everybody in the organization for the Tigers, and no fans, anytime he comes out of the bullpen, it's like, okay, you're just waiting for him to blow it.
And he does.
And he does. He does. Absolutely. But like I said, I think it puts a Band-Aid on the issue. It's not kind of fixing the matter, which we could spend all day on, and I'm not going to.
Well, fixing the matter would require them to sign a closer, and the issue is there aren't closers available.
And basically what they did is they took Joaquin Benoit and they moved him to the closer spot, and they said that he is the Tigers' closer for now. But I don't know, man. I don't know. They had somebody that they wanted to give the closer to, and that was Bruce Rondon, which he flamed out early in the season. The Tigers haven't given him a chance since.
Yeah.
But, good for the Tigers. This move needed to be made. I'm not sure it was the right move when it happened in the first place. Well, and that was a big mistake on their part, because they failed to address the situation in the offseason.
I would never argue that Jose Valverde is talented or deserves his job, but on the flip side, there's not really an option. What everyone keeps saying right now is the White Sox Jesse Crane is probably the most highly touted pitcher. He's not our closer right now, but he has the ability to be, and he's given up, I forgot, he's got some crazy number. It's in like the past 40-some games, he hasn't given up any runs or something like that. He's a relief pitcher for us. So, and I've heard his name thrown around a lot. Papelbon's been thrown around a lot. I think Papelbon's going to Boston.
Yeah, I think if Papelbon goes anywhere, it'll be Boston. Maybe Detroit. I don't think Detroit wants to throw the money out at him, although they've got a shit ton of it. But like I said, I think the issue for the Tigers, and I brought it up last week, and they either need to create a closer from which they had none, or they need to go out after somebody like Lincecum and just convert him.
Yeah, I think they're gonna. What a lot of people are saying about Jesse Crane from the White Sox is that the White Sox probably aren't going to want to trade them in division. I don't think that's going to be an issue. I really think that's what's going to happen. And I think
if you're the White Sox, I don't think it matters. You go to whoever throws the most money out at you. And right now I think Detroit's kind of desperate for a closer, whether or not that means they're buying a closer or they're going after one. Who knows? But I think the White Sox are definitely sellers, in which case they should be. And that would make Crane available, because I think they're trying to just mortgage whatever future they have left out of whatever they have there.
The White Sox are going to sell, even though they still say they're not going to. Rick Hahn says he's not going to, but I don't see how they can not sell. And I think there's a few people are safe. Chris Sale, I mean, I don't think anybody's completely safe. I think if somebody offered them the right amount of money for Chris Sale, they would take it.
Yeah, I think Sale would be gone if somebody would offer him the contract that they're looking for.
And I think
the money.
And I think that there are teams that could. I mean, he's not getting paid shit here. This is one of those contracts where the White Sox kind of gave him we only have 1 year of experience from you, so we're only going to pay you a couple of dollars. So he got the short end of the stick on that contract, which is fine. I mean, like I said, I'm a fan of the small contracts, so I don't think anybody's completely safe. But I mean, if we're talking generally, I think Chris Sale's safe. I think Alex Rios is probably safe here. I would say Dunn's safe, not because they like him, but because they owe him too much money and nobody's going to give him that money. Addison Reed is probably the safest of all of them.
Yeah, I think Addison Reed probably has to be.
I don't think they're getting rid of Addison Reed no matter what. And that's about it. I legitimately believe from...
Do you think they'd get rid of Konerko? I mean, we're getting way off topic here, but
yeah.
Do you think they'd get rid of Konerko? Because he's kind of been the guy that's been there, and the people that I know Chicago loves him, and
we do.
The organization loves him. He's their guy. Do you think they'd be willing to part with that?
Yeah, nobody wants him though. He's too old.
Yeah, I mean, could he come in for half a season and give somebody a lift?
No.
I guess you know better than I do because I don't ever watch or even pay attention to them.
He's had a bad season. I mean.
Because who was I heard, I forgot somebody, they mentioned him in a trade rumor with somebody. I forget who it was.
It was the Diamondbacks, but it wasn't true.
Okay, yeah, it was the Diamondbacks. Yeah, you're right.
And rumor has it he has said if he goes anywhere, that's where he wants to be because he lives in Arizona. He's from Arizona. He likes it there. And I just... They don't have. Well,
you know, when you get older, those warm weather climates are easier to play into.
Yeah, they don't have a need for him. Nobody really has a need for him. He's old. He needs to retire. He's just wasting our time at this point. And I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, I think everybody's. I mean, I don't think obviously nobody's gonna want Jake Peavy because he's hurt now. There's some players on the White Sox, like I said, Peavy and Dunn, who probably aren't going anywhere because just based on the fact that nobody wants them. Somebody might want Dunn. I mean, he's doing really great home run wise this year, but and he's a bearable first baseman. He's by no means like an all-star first baseman, but he's played a lot this year because Konerko is too old to play first base every day. And I mean, he suffices. It's not like we're not gonna have winning any championships or any Golden Gloves at first base or anything, but he's a perfectly adequate first baseman.
Let me just kind of go way off topic. I can't wait until Harper comes back so that way we can pick up our Adam Dunn, Bryce Harper debate.
I believe that my Adam Dunn is quite far ahead of your Bryce Harper.
Yeah, well, Harper's been on the DL for the better part of a month now, so. But, I mean, we got way off topic. How does that work? We started talking about Valverde, and then we move into White Sox, and then
AL Central, two teams we're passionate about.
Yeah, but
just a correction on our podcast this week. We recorded before Will Myers hit his first home run in Yankee Stadium. It was a grand slam off CC Sabathia. He's only, I believe, the second person to ever hit their first home run in Yankee Stadium, and I'm not sure that anybody's ever hit their first home run as a grand slam in Yankee Stadium.
Well, that's it for this week's episode of Wood with Handles. This was episode 11. We'd like to thank everybody for listening.
We'd also like to thank Jeff Kirshman for coming on our show and talking about the athletics with us. You can find us on Twitter at WoodWithHandles, on Facebook.com/WoodWithHandles, and on our website, WoodWithHandles.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Josh. Thanks for listening.